Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to season 2 of the Niqabi Diaries podcast, a platform dedicated to sharing the stories of the women behind the veil. This season, we will be speaking to more Muslim women from all walks of life as we continue to discuss their deep and intimate reasons for wearing the niqab. The Niqabi Diaries, our experiences, our perspectives, our voices. I'm your host, Samar, and thank you for listening. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, sister. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm good, thank you.
Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair for joining us today on the Niqabi Diaries. Sister, could you please introduce yourself for the listeners and tell us a little bit about what you do, inshallah?
Okay, my name is Sabora or Charlotte, and I'm a revert to Islam. I'm mother of 4, soon to be 5, inshallah, and I have a few businesses, but my main thing that most sisters would know me for is for running A Path to Pregnancy, which is a holistic fertility organization to help women who've got any type of like menstrual issues or if they're trying to conceive.
MashaAllah, tabarakallah. Great. Okay, so inshallah we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Sister, you mentioned that you're a revert. Would you mind sharing some of your story of how you came to Islam with us, inshallah?
Yep, sure. So I was about 18, I think, and it just happened to be, so I was from I wouldn't really say a Christian family, but I'm from a Christian family, but we're just, not the practicing, not going to church or anything like that. It's just Christmas, Easter, etc. And a single parent family as well. So I didn't really grow up with religion in any way. And I guess as I got older, especially into my teens, I didn't really believe in anything. So the idea of Trinity and this and the other, just didn't fit well with me. I just thought it seemed like nonsense. And, if I had a friend at school say, that there's a God and this and the other, and I'd always put a question to her and say, okay, well, where did God come from? And it was like one of those questions that I just knew that kind of not would throw her off, but it seemed like, well, I don't know the answer, so you're not going to know. And she'd always just say, he always has been and was and is and everything. Mm-hmm. So she was correct, but I was not listening. So I wasn't really religious, and I didn't think anyone around me was very religious or anything either. But my group of friends that sort of weaned over the years, when I was 18, the closest people to me all happened to be from Muslim backgrounds. Right. So I had friends who were like Pakistani, Gambian, like half like Turkish, mixed Indian and Arab, and they all were not practicing at all. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know that some of them were Muslim. Like I don't think I even realized that Islam could be something that is for other nationalities and stuff. I didn't even really know about Islam, to be honest. I didn't really care or anything. But then I did come to know that, okay, all of these people come from Muslim families. They didn't pray or anything, but there was something about them where they knew that Islam was true. Like there was no kind of, besides one who was like half Turkish, I think she had a bad experience from her family, so to her Islam was associated with that. But all the others, it was sort of like they'd been madrasa when they were a kid, or they just knew that Islam was the real thing. But that's all they sort of like, that's all I got from them. And I remember thinking how it was at odds, because I did not care for religion, and I thought that it was for people who needed something like a crutch, that they needed some type of support system, so it makes sense that they cling to this thing called religion and etc. But at the same time, I respected all of my friends, so I kind of thought like, how is it that they care and think about it and I disregard it? And I don't know what it was that led me exactly, because as I said, I wasn't religious, I wasn't searching for religion. I loved my non-Islamic 18-year-old life at that time, but it's just, as I said, that it became like the few closest people to me, that was their religion. So I was kind of like almost getting introduced to it slowly. And one of my friends, who's alhamdulillah sister I've known since year 8, she basically started to practice. And I went to a bookshop with her and I bought a couple of Islamic books. And I don't know why, I don't remember that phase, but I bought 2 Islamic books. And then I went home and one of them was a bit hard to read. And the second one I did start to read. And there was one line in the whole book that I remember most clearly. And that said that everything has its role to play. Like the ants do its things, the tree does its thing. So why do like mankind think that they don't have like a role or a purpose? And I thought, oh, that makes sense. And just from there, it just seemed like, oh, this makes sense. Like Islam makes sense. I think I'm a very logical person. And I just found like, yeah, this makes sense. So as I'm reading the book, it's all making sense to me. And then it says in the book how to take your shahada. So I was thinking, well, yeah, I believe this makes sense. So I just took the shahada to myself. This was in the summer 2005. I would say maybe May, around May or something. And I was thinking, okay, it might actually a little bit earlier than May. And from that point, I started to kind of believe in it and be like, I found myself not addicted, but so inclined to just read more. I just wanted to read more and more and more. I wanted to learn more. Then I was trying to implement it bit by bit. Like I stopped drinking alcohol. I stopped eating pork. It was all very sly because I was at home and stuff. I was just doing it very sort of like no one really knew. And then I was just like really excited to start wearing hijab. And I was just like, I'm gonna wear hijab. I told all my friends at work, I'm gonna come in on such and such day wearing hijab. So I'd been home, I'd been practicing how to wear hijab. I'd obviously been still learning and reading books, cutting out all of these different things. And alhamdulillah, Allah placed another sister in my life as well. We worked together. I had no idea she was a Muslim. Someone just said to me, oh, she's looking into Islam too. So me and this sister became really good friends, and we ended up taking our shahada together in the masjid and stuff. But basically, I would say like once you learn about it, it is hard for you to unlearn it, unknow. I just found it like, I just was compelled to keep going. Now, obviously, you encounter then issues with family. So alhamdulillah, I went to work. The day that I happened to choose to go to work in hijab happened to be the day after, I think it was the 7/7 bombings. I didn't know obviously that was going to happen. I'd planned all week to wear hijab, and then that happened. It didn't put me off. I actually didn't even associate anything to do with any kind of bombs or terrorism or whatever to Islam. I don't know why. I just it seemed kind of 2 different things. Yeah, they're saying that these are terrorists, they're Muslims, etc. But then I'm reading these books and stuff, and I'm still inclined to all what I believe in and what the Islamic books are saying and how the religion itself just seems so right. Anyway, alhamdulillah, I started to wear hijab again, still in secret. I would put it on while walking over a bridge to work. I would wear it home, before my mum came home, she would have no idea basically. Then one day I was comparing all of the Salah books, and I was putting together, basically I was trying to like look at all of the prayer books and decide which is the correct prayer, because there was tiny little bits where it was a bit different. So I put together what I believed was the correct version after putting them all together, and I tried to print it out so that I could learn the Al-Fatiha, as well as I think maybe a sort of Kul Huwallahu Ahad or something. And I kept pressing print, and it was not printing out at all. So I just went to bed, and then that night I heard my mum call me, and she was just like, Charlotte, and I was thinking, what's happened? I went downstairs, and the printer is just printing page and page of the prayer out that I'm supposed to be like reading from. And then she was like, what is all of this? And I said, oh, I'm becoming a Muslim. And she's just like, sorry?
That's quite funny.
So that's how my mum found out. And I didn't think that she'd have a problem, just because I knew she knew of Muslims, and she new Muslim at work or something like this. I didn't actually think religion was an issue. We never discussed it or anything. But then obviously I realized it would be an issue. And she tried to convince me that, look, if I'm going to look into religion, then I should look into Christianity, and how there's so many different parts and sects of Christianity that I'm sure I could find one that suits. Yeah. And I, after like talking to her, said to her, look, I'll consider it for 1 year, but if after that year I'm not going to, I'm going to just stick to whatever I choose. So that was my kind of answer to her. But sadly, I could not do that. I could not just ignore it for 1 year. So I had just continued to do everything in secret. I would say that I was going to the gym, but I was actually going to sister circles. And I just continued to progress Islamically. And then a situation approached where it was either I moved with my mum to up north, or I move out. And I've always wanted to move out very young. So I was like, oh, well, I'm moving out, because I'm mixed race. So moving to a white area already is one thing. And then trying to practice my religion would be on top of that. So I decided I'd move out, and I got my own place. And I just turned 19. So basically, just before moving out, maybe a few weeks before, I had started to look into marriage. And with that comes, more issues. Again, my mum found out. I think I left my emails open or something. So she wasn't happy, because now she realized that I hadn't dropped the religion of Islam. And not only that, but I want to go off and marry someone from a different culture. So she didn't speak to me for at least a week, and I really didn't understand it. I was really upset, because I just saw that I wanted to be a better person, and I just didn't get the problem at all. I remember something she said at the time, which was, I'd rather you be a drug addict, because then at least I know what to do. So I can understand from a non-Muslim point of view that if you know, I don't know, teenage pregnancy or drugs and stuff, you kind of know what to do and how to help. But when your child changes their religion and it's to one that you have no idea, it's kind of like, are they being brainwashed? What's going on? So I understand looking back now, but at the time I just didn't understand what the problem was. So alhamdulillah, I moved out. My mum helped me. She realized that, she'd rather know where I was than to just lead me to it. And alhamdulillah, I can say since that point onwards, for as long as I've been firm on what I've believed in, my mum has come round with every step of the way, including Niqab eventually.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. So how did you actually get into the process of wearing the Niqab then? Like what kind of got you there?
So that was soon after. So it'd been maybe 6 months since I'd become Muslim. I was looking to get married, doing the interview processes, speaking to people, and someone mentioned, that they'd want their wife to wear niqab. That's when I first thought about it. And then I, from the little that I knew of it, I thought, yeah, I would like to wear the niqab. But because at the time I was living alone and working alone, I was alone, I didn't feel comfortable putting it on then, but I thought if I was married, I would put it on. So that's when it first came into my mind that, okay, one day I'd want to wear the niqab. Eventually I did get married, not to the same person that had first said that though. I did get married, alhamdulillah. So within 1 year of me being Muslim, I was married. And I said to my husband how I'd like to wear niqab. We went to the shop, I bought niqab. I was introduced to a couple of my sister-in-laws who were also reverts, and they were wearing niqab. And I started to wear it like to, what would you call it? To talks and lectures. Where we were in around a lot of Muslims. But then, for example, when I went to work, I didn't wear the niqab. And if I was just going out with my husband, I wouldn't wear the niqab. But if we was going to a big gathering of a lecture or something, I would wear the niqab then. And from that point, I actually moved to where my husband was studying at university. He was starting his second year of university, and I started to wear my hijab and wrap it across my face, a bit like how people are doing for COVID now. I would wrap it around my face and pin it, and that would be my niqab, and I would wear that on campus. But as soon as I would walk down the road towards where I lived, I would actually be like pulling it off my face and almost acting as if I was constricting myself. Like it was sort of like, oh, I need to breathe. And I knew in my mind that no one is making me do this. It's only me, if that makes sense. So it wasn't like, oh, it was nothing to do with my husband, it was nothing to anyone else. It was my choice, but it was still the freedom of my choice to also take it off. You know, like the complete choice in it. You know, it was like, well, I could do what I wanted. And then I remember what happened was when I started to actually wear it properly. So again, maybe a few months passed, and I saw my friend out in town, and she looked at me and I looked at her, and I thought, why is she kind of looking at me funny? And then I realized because I didn't have the niqab on, and she didn't realize that I didn't wear it off campus.
Oh, okay.
So she asked me about that later. She said, oh, I saw you, but you didn't have that on. And I said, oh, I don't actually wear it all the time. I just wear it when I'm on campus. And she was like, oh, okay. And then we had a brother come and give a talk, and his wife also came as well. And she wore niqab. And after the talk, we got to go and just sit with that sister and just talk with her. And so me and my friend, we sat and talked with her and we was talking about the niqab. And she was just saying things that made me think. I started to think, I don't want to be a hypocrite. I feel like a hypocrite. I'm wearing it sometimes and I'm not wearing it all the time. And I said, right, I'm going to pick a date and I'm going to just stick to wearing it from then. So I picked a date. I did start to wear it from then. The only time I took it off was when I would go to visit my mum. So I would like literally sort of like get to her road and then I would take it off. But I didn't see my mum too often because we lived in two different areas of the country. So it wasn't a case like I did that often. So I was wearing the niqab fully from, I would guess, 2007, maybe 2008. It took me maybe another year or so where I told my mum. By that time, I'd gone through so many different like stages. The first the wearing the hijab, then the getting married, then I moved away further. Then I was pregnant. Then I told her about my abaya. All these different steps that I'd basically gone through. It's kind of like my mum just sort of got used to the okay, the arguments become less, alhamdulillah. I'm really grateful for that. And I found, and I say this to Revet sisters as well, that if you persevere with something and you stick to it, it'll get easier for you. But if you give some sort of leeway in anything, then you'll find that there's going to be constant sort of someone trying to pressurize you to do something else. So when I eventually said to my mum, I cover my face with the niqab now, the face veil. She thought for some reason it was some sort of sect of Shiaism. I just sort of laughed it off. But yeah, that was it really. That was my sort of journey to end the niqab.
SubhanAllah, I love my body. It's a beautiful, like a really beautiful story and journey that you've just shared, mashallah. And really, like it makes me kind of remember, it's similar to the time when I became Muslim as well. It took me a lot longer to wear the niqab though, but like similar experiences, like because in the beginning I had wanted to wear it as well. So it's just like you were saying, you kind of you trying to plan like when to do certain things, and you don't want to like because I like to start things and just keep going. So that's one of the things as well. But definitely like in respect to your family and your mum and things like that. It can be challenging, definitely, as a revert when you come to the deen and you start practicing, and they don't know what's going on, and being persistent and consistent as well. You have to, when you're consistent, when they can see you're being consistent, then it makes a difference. It's something that is time helps a lot, because I think in the beginning they're going to have a lot of doubts about what you're doing, but then over the years, and this is something that I think as reverts we will have to be patient with as well. But you can't expect your family to just swallow everything you're doing. Like in the beginning, they're not going to get it. So it's just one of those things. There's very few people, I think, that Allah's given them that extra blessing that their parents accept them from the beginning when they become Muslim, and maybe even become Muslim themselves. But in my experience, it really wasn't the case. It took years, and even like every now and then, like even now, you still find sometimes like there will be some small challenges. They're not too big, but you know what I mean.
alhamdulillah, I think I've actually covered every challenge
No,
um,
subhanallah.
that I think can happen, you know, like anything from, you know, obviously different aspects of the deen to polygamy to you know, what does jihad mean, all these kind of things have all kind of come up in that sense, and they've all been covered. So I kind of like, I feel like everything's done. There isn't anything else, you know, to talk to my mum about that would cause any kind of clashes anymore.
Yeah, inshallah. Alhamdulillah. So, have you faced any abuse at all for wearing the niqab at any point? Like,
um I was thinking about this. Now, I would say no, in the sense that I've never felt physically abused or threatened. So nothing like sort of jumps out in that sense. But then there are obviously lots of incidents that happen where something possibly could have gone worse, but I was saved from. So I would say some of the incidents were, right, so let's go back a bit. I would say when I probably had my first child, I have been in 2 or 3 situations where I was on public transport, and they believed, the other person believed I was alone, because I had my husband with the pram and I would be like separately maybe. Um, and in each of these situations, I had, like, for example, one youth came down the stairs and sort of decided to blow raspberry in my face. Um, my husband was there and kindly lifted him off of the bus. So it was just like a funny situation for me. I was protected, you know, alhamdulillah, for marriage, because, you know, that's what your husband's there for, you know, to protect you. And so again, you know, it didn't come to anything. Same thing again, I was on a bus going off to, I think, Taraweh, and someone was saying to me like, oh, you know, why are you covering your face for? You know, they're being like quite rude and everything. Again, they didn't realize my husband was standing opposite to me, and they just obviously found themselves in a confrontation with my husband. So my husband, alhamdulillah, has always been there in those situations. And but I'm very independent. I go pretty much everywhere by myself or with my children, and I have not encountered anything else other than a time in Primark. I was walking around trying to look for some pajamas for my children, and I noticed this woman was sort of like had her camera phone up, and then I kind of moved and I realized that she actually was filming me. And I did approach her and I said, you know, what are you doing, like? And she was just talking to her camera saying, oh, I can't believe this, you know, this woman, you know, just saying she couldn't believe, like, I'm basically wearing my face is covered and I'm going around the shop. And I was just saying how I can't believe you think it's okay to film a woman and her children just shopping for pajamas. I was like really annoyed. But then after the incident, you know, finished and the woman went off, I was even more annoyed at myself that I did not like grab her phone, etc. You know, but at the time I just couldn't believe like that how rude she was. And I made it very clear to those around me. And she would have been the one that looked, you know, out of place,
yeah, of course.
doing what she was doing.
SubhanAllah, things like that happen sometimes, and you don't even like, because it's so you really you're put on the spot, and as to why people can be like, you know, rude, like you said, because
Yeah.
it's not something you're expecting. Because something similar happened to me. I was actually, but I wasn't like near to the, like, it was basically I saw they looked like a couple anyways. It was 2 people, and they a man and a woman,
Yeah.
and I was just like, I was getting into my car, and
Yeah.
I noticed that there was like, you know, these people over the road. There was, you know, I caught a glimpse of them, and it looked like they had their phone in their hand. It looked like they was actually taking pictures of me. I did, and at the beginning, I didn't realize, I didn't think, oh, they're taking photos of me, but
Yeah.
they started pointing and waving kind of thing, and I was like kind of looking around me thinking like, who are they talking to? But then they made it clear that it was me that they was kind of like pointing to.
Yeah.
And then it looked like they was like, I don't know if it was taking photos or filming or whatever, but then they was started laughing and stuff, and then they just got on the bus, but they was over the road. So it was just like a really weird experience, and I just thought, I just took a photo of them back basically, because
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do, so I just let me take a photo of them just in
Yeah.
case, you know what I mean? Because I thought, like, if something happens, then at least I've got this evidence of, like, you know,
Yeah.
like, because I just didn't understand. It was a really bizarre situation, because I just thought, like,
Yeah.
why do people feel that something like that is necessary. You know, why do they have time for these kind of things? Do you know what I mean? Like, even if you
Yeah,
don't understand why a Muslim woman covers her face and you don't, or you don't like it, just like get on with your life. It's nothing to do
yeah,
with you.
it's true.
Yes,
It is strange. I just laugh, and you can only laugh and feel sorry for people's ignorance and stuff.
yeah, it's just so weird. Like, subhanallah. So, on that note, would you say that the niqab is a barrier, and if so, in which sense?
No, I don't find it in any way a barrier to going about. I've never thought or feared that I need to take it off, but I'm a very, I don't know the right way to phrase it, strong-headed. I'm a type of person that if I want to do a thing, I'm going to do it. And that helps a lot, obviously, when you become a Muslim. And then in terms of going through, yes, wearing niqabs and stuff, I have the same perspective. It's I'm going to wear it, whether someone likes that or not. And I'm not going to take it off out of fear, because I know that every time I'm wearing it, I believe I'm being rewarded for that. Um, so I'm not going to take it off a fear of a person, you know?
Yes, of course. Subhanallah. Yeah, so it's so true. Like, because at the end of the day, we should only fear Allah, and that's one of the beautiful things about Islam. Like,
Yeah.
we submit to the Creator, and that makes us free from being under anybody else. Like by
Yeah,
force.
exactly.
Because you know what I mean. We put Allah like first. SubhanAllah.
Yeah, it's true. It's like if some people have a problem with it, or if some people feel like, oh, that I'm being forced to wear it, then they'll just realize that no, I'm wearing it because I want to, and I'm going to continue to wear it whether someone else doesn't want me to. Um, so in that sense, yes, I've not found that to be a barrier at all. Not a barrier for communication, not a barrier to even, I wouldn't say it's a barrier to do what you want, because I kind of see it as in I should want what is Islamically okay anyway. So I'm not going to be like, oh, this is unfair, I can't wear my niqab to work or something. If, for example, there's some sort of rule, some places you can't wear the niqab, maybe if you're doing like surgery or something, for example, um, you would maybe not be allowed to wear it in the UK. So I then wouldn't pick a job to do that. If that makes sense.
Yes, of
So
course.
some people might find anything, whether it's the niqab, whether it's the hijab, a barrier to something they want to do. But I feel then you have to reevaluate what you want to do
Exactly.
and what's more important. So yeah, I've not found it a barrier. And even with traveling and stuff as well, um, I have lived in Saudi Arabia on and off
Okay.
for like 10 years, and I've lived in Qatar for almost a couple of years as well. Um, I've also lived in several parts of the UK, and I would say that it's not been a barrier in any of those situations. Of course, abroad, um, you find many people are wearing the niqab in Saudis. It's part of their cultural wear as well. And it's very eye-opening to go to a society where that's the norm,
Mm.
because then you realize that everyone in England and in Western countries, they don't realize that you can live a whole civilization can live covering their face.
Yeah, of course.
Like it doesn't, here you have everything like beauty wise aimed at selling makeup, selling a hair product, and you've still got people all beautified on everything you look at. But yet if you go to Saudi Arabia, they spend probably way more on makeup and beautifying themselves, and yet they're covered up and they don't have models all on show or anything like that either.
Mm-hmm. SubhanAllah.
So it is not a barrier at all, um, in any type of way.
Oh my God, that's like, yeah, that's quite deep actually. Like, thinking about that kind of comparison, because yeah, I've never really thought about it like that. But yeah, makeup is something that's very popular, isn't it? There, so it's not that the
Yeah,
women don't take care of themselves; they really do. Like, beauty is something that's important to them. So
yeah.
that's
The,
another thing.
the
Like,
Niqab
covering
is,
your face is not because of beauty and being ugly, or being like even because some
yeah,
people think. I've heard Muslims say this as well. For example, like, oh, I don't think I'm that attractive, so I don't need to wear the niqab. Or
yeah,
sometimes people would say, well, maybe you covering your face because you're ugly. So these kind of things, like, it's not something to be associated with if you think you're beautiful, or if you don't think you're beautiful. Do you know what I mean? It's about
yeah,
the worship.
definitely. Yeah, I never see it in a beauty sense of like, oh, I don't think I don't have much experience when I was not a Muslim with anyone without, with a niqab on. I don't even recall seeing it. I see it now. Obviously, it's everywhere, even in the UK. Everyone is, loads of women are wearing it. Loads of Muslim women are wearing it. But even where I was from, before I became Muslim, I would go to the same area as after, and when I became Muslim, I went to the same area, and I see it in two different worlds. Like, I don't know if you know London, but in South London, there's an area called Tooting, and I
Yes,
used to go
yes.
there all the time as a child. But then once I become Muslim, I was now going into masjids there and stuff, and it was like it was really eye-opening. Like, it was like the same place, but I'm seeing it from a completely different, you
Different
know
way, yeah. Yes.
yeah. And I never noticed anyone really with the niqab on before then, and then it was only afterwards I started to notice that there was. So I definitely think that any hatred and dislike towards the niqab came about through the media and everything, because there didn't seem to be an issue beforehand. Obviously, I wasn't a Muslim beforehand to know and experience it, but it just seemed like it wasn't an issue. People covering their face. Didn't seem to be any negative views about it. But then, as soon as loads of people are wearing it, and it's like, oh, there's all these women wearing the niqab. Now suddenly, people are noticing it.
Mm.
But yeah,
Yeah, I think definitely the media has a big part to play, because it's literally like Muslim women covering their faces, the whole burqa, niqab, whatever, these kind of things. They've just put them in the spotlight. Whereas before, like, because I remember as a child, like, you know, growing up and like going to Shepherd's Bush Market with my grandma, and the only recollection I have of like niqabi women was like, I'm assuming they were Saudi Arabian women, but like they had like the big black jilbabs on, and they used to wear
yeah,
this like, it was niqab, but like not even, they used to, like, I don't know if you've seen those kind of face coverings. It's like this kind of like it looks like metal, like a gold kind of like
okay,
sheet
yeah,
something like, so
yeah,
it's like a niqab, but it's not like how, like, we would really wear the niqabs,
yeah,
it's like, so. And I used to see those women in the market, and I used to find it strange, but I was a child, and I just thought, well, that's just a different culture. Do you know what I mean? I didn't
yeah.
really think, why are they covering their face? I just kind of thought, what is that? And
And
I
it wasn't
remember,
threatening either.
yes,
It
it
was not
wasn't.
like
I
a man
didn't
in
feel,
a balaclava.
I didn't feel that it was something scary or anything like that. I just thought, well, that's probably like an Asian or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, because
Yeah,
when it's like when you was talking about, how you came to Islam and stuff. It's funny because it just reminded me, like, growing up and coming from African Caribbean background, everybody who's like, Asian, like for
yeah,
me, there was like there was no difference between Arab and Asian. Yeah, I didn't know any
yeah,
difference. For me, they was all the same. It's just like a bunch of brown people that came from some other country. They got a whole load of different languages and different
yeah,
religions. They're not Christians. That's what I knew. Like, that's basically it. So like, they're just the other people. You
yeah,
mix with them, but you don't know really much about their culture. But these are things that as you get older, you learn about this kind of stuff. So, but I
yeah,
never felt threatened by other people's cultures or something. you know
yeah,
and I think now, like, the media, it tries to make people feel that they should be threatened, but deep down people don't feel threatened, because if you really thought that a Muslim woman who's got her face covered and she's wearing a jilbab or something is,
yeah,
is dangerous, you wouldn't go up to her and start like trying to abuse her and making comments.
yeah,
That you wouldn't. And a lot of
definitely.
the time, people, I've had many cases, even sometimes sisters who wear the hijab have been attacked.
Yeah,
And they go for the women, because they know that the women are more vulnerable, because
yeah,
you don't hear of the cases where men are getting attacked all the time. You know what I mean? It's that that's more
yeah.
rare. So
Yeah, definitely. I think it's very like contradictory anyway, because first of all, it's sort of made out that Muslim women are oppressed and under the thumb of their husband, and they're like miskin, poor women. But then at the same time try to flip it and say, oh, they cover their face, they are a threat, and
exactly.
you know and just try to put anything to it. Alhamdulillah, like another sister mentioned, that with COVID you can't say anymore that it is a barrier to communication,
Exactly.
covering your face. And a lot of this stuff, it's not gonna work and wash with them anymore. So um Yeah, I think it is. It's definitely like what you said. It's people trying to make others or make the masses like afraid of something when there's no need.
SubhanAllah. No, so true. So, would you say in your experiences that, since being Muslim, would you say that you feel that sisters who wear the hijab get treated differently from sisters who wear the niqab?
Um, so I don't. I feel like there's little things, but they don't really they're not major things, and I think they're really like both sided. So for example, when I saw someone in the car before I started to wear it, I had different opinions. So I saw someone who actually covered her face with the hijab, wrapped it around, covered her face, and I used to feel a little bit uncomfortable myself talking to her because I almost didn't know how to like look at her and talk to her. So I'd sort of like observe in the conversation. But when it came to me wearing the niqab, when you're looking out from the niqab, because your eyes are not covered, you forget that you're wearing it. So for me, I often will forget what people are seeing when they look at me. It's only when I go past like the reflection do I remember, oh yeah, that's what everyone's seeing of me. And I forget, but in terms of this lady that I saw, she was praying in the masjid and she wore niqab, and I remember seeing the way she prayed and it just looked so pious and everything. And I used to think, it's something you want to aim for. You want to be better. And then when you do wear the niqab, you're still fully aware of your own flaws. You don't suddenly think that you're better. So when people who don't wear the niqab look at you, not everyone obviously, but some do think you think you're better. Now, I this sounds really silly, but I feel like I already experienced that as a non-Muslim, because before I was Muslim, so I'm mixed race, and I always found myself in situations where it seemed like people thought that I liked myself, or was full of myself, or just because I was mixed race, as if the beauty standard was different. And I used to think, nope, maybe you think I am beautiful and you feel a bit jealous by that, but I don't feel that way. It's not me that's walking around thinking I'm beautiful. You have an issue with me, and therefore you're portraying that onto me. I'm not, so when I find it the same with the niqab, like if someone doesn't give me salams or something like this, I only see it as in there's an issue within themselves that they have to deal with. But I am a person who I have to work on giving salams too. So this is what I find in the community is that if you go past like another niqabi, they might say salam alaikum to you and you say wa alaikum salam to Allah. And it's a lovely thing. We're supposed to say this when we see another Muslim. But then if I go past someone with hijab, I'm a person who doesn't tend to say it first because I'm quite shy. So I find that they never really say it to me then either. But that's not their fault. It's a two-way thing. And so, but that's something I've noticed. If I'm in an area where there's niqabis, they will say salams to me and I'll greet them back. And if I go past the sisters with just hijab on, then they don't. And I don't know if it's because they feel a bit threatened or if they feel they don't know how to approach someone in niqab either, the same way as like, a non-Muslim. But I find that a little thing, but I think it's, as I said, it's a two-way thing. And I think obviously just as Muslims, we all have to give each other salams. And not create any barrier between us that one is better than the other or one is more righteous than the other, because only Allah knows that.
Of course, yeah. And another note on the giving the salams, like it's the sunnah to give salams to those you know as well as those you don't know. And I find personally here, like, because I do try to keep that sunnah of giving the salam all the time, and I find that especially like you come into close proximity with another Muslim, you be in the supermarket or something, for example, and I'll give salam, and it's just like sometimes they'll look at me like, oh, I don't know you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You get this kind of look sometimes, and it's just like,
Yeah.
you can just reply. It doesn't, I'm not trying to like ask you for anything. It's just like in passing. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, like I think this is something we still need to revive this sunnah, subhanallah, because it's still a challenge, and I think sometimes it can be harder when you're in an area where there's lots of Muslims, because I think I personally, like, I feel like I almost get a bit lazy with it.
Yeah.
Because you're seeing so many Muslims, so it's kind of like, Do I have to keep
Yeah.
saying salam all the time?
That's true. Yeah, alhamdulillah, I live in an area where I go past a lot of Muslims all the time. So you would be saying it all the time. But as I said, all the times when someone says it to me, I feel very happy
Yeah.
and I give it back. It's like you could be just reminding your own business, but the next minute someone is saying peace be upon you,
That's a
and
fact.
you smile at them and they smile at you, and it is just a nice situation. So imagine going past everyone on the street and that's your situation. How you're I feel like it would probably make everyone's day a lot happier.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, just because of that small little interaction and greeting that we're giving each other. But and on the same note of the niqab, does it? Do I think hijabis and stuff are treated differently? There is something that I've noticed over the years, and I feel is one of the reasons why I continue to wear the niqab as well and find it like very beneficial. Is that when you are around males now, I'm not 100% sure if this is with non-Muslims as well, because I don't like interact with any men. But when I have to, so whether it's brothers or not brothers, I find the level of respect I get is far higher because my face is covered.
Mm,
So, along with covering my face, my demeanor is also different.
yeah.
I'm not smiling to any male. I am not um, being overly loud in front of them, giggly, or my demeanor is different to how it would be amongst my friends and family. So straight away, I found myself in situations where people have let me go first or told me you go ahead, etc. Um, and I 100% believe it's because I'm covered and my demeanor is completely different. And so it's like this level of respect is there. Whereas I've seen like been around like other people who've got hijab on and maybe makeup, and they're being polite and smiley and making conversation, and the level of respect isn't there.
Mm,
So I find like in a community there's so much benefit to wearing the niqab, and I do in the niqab as being something that is a community thing,
yes.
not just something for me personally.
Mhm.
And I don't know if that comes under that section of what I was just saying, but that is an area that I hugely think is important.
I think it's really actually amazing that you've brought up this point because apparently you've mentioned some things that, and in a way that I've never kind of like thought about it with
Yeah,
regards to what you just said about the niqab being something for the community. Because when we look at the Quran and Allah's telling the believing women to, cover themselves,
yeah,
this is something that subhanAllah, just a few weeks ago actually, a sister
yeah,
made a comment on, the Instagram accounts and the Niqabi Diaries, and she was basically saying, she said, because she's not what she's the sister, she doesn't wear, she used to wear hijab, she said, okay, so she's not wearing hijab anymore. But she said, she commented on one of the posts and she said, well, if it's not for men, then why don't you wear it even, why don't you wear it all the time? So I just responded to her, well, we're doing it because it's a command from Allah, wearing the
yeah,
hijab, okay, and the niqab. It's a command from Allah, and there's no doubt about that. But just because something is a command from Allah doesn't mean that there isn't benefit for the creation. Do you know what I mean? Like there's, it's like we have communal salah, for example.
yeah,
When we pray 5 times a day, like the men, for example, they're encouraged strongly that they should be doing their prayer in the jamaat, in the masjid. But
yeah,
but they're not going to the masjid in order for approval, to meet approval of others and to be seen that, oh yeah, look, I go to the
yeah,
masjid, because your prayer is only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. It's not
yeah,
you're not praying to somebody else or for the sake of somebody else. You're praying for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So
yeah,
this is something you should be doing in congregation, and at the same time it's something you can do by yourself. You can do it at home, and the men are encouraged as well, especially that doing their obligatory prayers in the masjid and the sunnah prayers, they should do sunnah prayers in the home as well. So it's
yeah,
not to just pray outside then and neglect doing any salah in the house. So there's
yeah,
a balance there, and even, like I really like what you said that actually, because funny, it reflects on us in so many ways. Wearing the niqab and the hijab, it makes you more conscious of yourself, your demeanor, how you're
yeah,
behaving, and there's a level of respectability there. And I think what you said about getting more respect from males in general,
And definitely respect. Women deserve respect. You know, people, human beings deserve respect. But the reality is, respect is something that is earned, and whatever
Yeah.
you do can increase the amount of respect that you get, or even decrease it. You know,
Yeah.
that's just human nature. You know, there's certain things that people will do that make you feel that you respect them even more. You want to show them more respect. You want
Yeah.
to, you feel that you love them more, or you know, even as well. You know, so there's certain things that
Yeah.
you can do to increase that in the community with people. And as well, another thing that I, you know, I can definitely, like, you know, relate to that. I've been living in the northeast for, like, I think nearly 20 years now, but
Okay.
I've noticed here that I find that the men in general, and this is like non-Muslim men I'm talking about a lot of the time
Yeah.
actually, but I find them, they have this kind of level of, I don't know, gentlemen, like kind of chivalry,
Yeah.
kind of
Definitely.
like, compared to, like, because I was raised in London, so like for me there's a big difference in how the men here, and this is just non-Muslim men in general.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to say this, sometimes I do wish that some of the Muslim men here had more of that kind of chivalrous nature in them, because I
Yeah.
see it in the non-Muslim men, you know,
Yeah.
that they just naturally seem to have that when it comes to, like, taking care of their families, and you know, even you know, in the interaction that they have with other women that they're not related, you know, they'll open the door for you, you know,
Yeah.
hold it open, you know, help you with, you know, they're always like ready to do that. Whereas sometimes with the Muslim males, you know, they can just pretend like you're not there, or ignore you, or you know, they
Yeah.
wouldn't let you go first, for example. They don't, there's like these kind of things, sometimes they seem to be missing these kind of manners, and I don't know if it's because they
Yeah.
feel that they shouldn't, I don't know, like, I don't know if it's, if it's out of trying to, um you know, segregate themselves from the Muslim women, and if they're trying
Yeah.
to show respect in that kind of way. But at the same time, like, I think personally that, you know, yes, we have to cover, and you know, this is, you know, as you said, it's something for the community. This is helping to keep, you know, people in, you know, you keep your own space, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
you know,
It's true. I
separate.
think it I think it can be difficult, yeah, for men, because there's still a line. So
Yes.
if and they have to have, like, you know, in terms of what they feel comfortable with as well.
Exactly.
So there'll be those brothers who are lowering their gaze, and they want to avoid being around the women just as much as the women want to avoid being around the men. They don't want to put themselves in a difficult situation, a situation that doesn't look good, or a situation of temptation. So they may completely avoid you. And that can seem sometimes disrespectful, but when you're a Muslim and you know, then you can know that it's not out of disrespect.
Exactly.
And then there's others who may, you know, yeah, leave a door open for you, or let you go somewhere first, because of, you know, that, given that respect, you're a woman, etc. But yeah, some men, I can imagine, would feel a bit uncomfortable maybe doing that, because it might suggest in some way they're, you know, not flirting with you, but you know, there's the kindness to you might seem at odds or something.
Yes. Yes.
So that, you know, that to avoid that, to just kind of, you know, but I get what you mean. And then there's probably a lot of other cultural Muslims as well,
Mm.
where they probably don't see the Muslim women as highly as they should be.
Yes.
And so therefore there's that area. But yeah, in a community sense, when I wear the niqab, I see it like this. Like, when I go outside, not only am I married, but I mean, there are other Muslim women and men around, and I am not going to be a fitna to anyone else's husband, inshallah.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's how I see it. Like, I'm not saying I'm beautiful. I'm not saying I'm, you know, if I didn't wear niqab, oh, I'd be such a fitna. No, no, that's not what I mean. What I mean is that we should be wise enough and smart enough to know that women are beautiful,
Exactly.
regardless. They just already are. Allah made us beautiful. And men, we are one of the biggest fitness for them. We're the biggest tribulations and troubles for them, and the hardest thing to avoid, you know? So why cause a difficulty on your brother in Islam? Why cause a difficulty between your sister and her husband because now he wants to get married to someone else, or he's looked at you, or he thinks you're better or prettier, or, you know, because there's so much comparison in beauty, and it's just forced on us in the societies that we live
Exactly.
in.
Exactly.
Why add to it? So when you wear the niqab, it's not just about, yeah, I wear it for myself because it's something I want to do, and I feel that by wearing it, I feel I act better. And
Yes.
obviously, the more I can act better, the more I can be better whether that's in public or at home. So for me, it's like something I have to do for me. But then I've noticed on the community level how I would love it if more sisters wore niqab. Why? Because then my husband, yes, he is lowering his gaze, alhamdulillah, but I don't want him seeing all your pretty faces. I don't want to see him seeing you with makeup on. Like, you know, it's hard enough as it is for me to get on all my makeup after looking after my 4 kids. So why are you making it difficult for me, sister? That's how I kind of see it when I think of it on a community level, that there isn't going to be these kind of outrageous, I don't know, sexual desires amongst us as a community as there is in the West, if we all took the right balance. So we did our part and the brothers lowered their gaze. Because I have come across sisters be like, oh, why should we have to tell the men to lower their gaze? No, in the Quran tells us both to lower our gaze, you know?
Exactly.
It's not just on one.
Because
And,
it's
you
helping
know,
together. We're all
exactly.
supposed to be helping each other, you know.
We're helping each other get to Jannah, not be a fitna or a trouble for each other. And that's how we should more look at it, not in a selfish way of why should I? Why
Exactly.
should I do
It's
this?
about personal responsibility, and I think that's something that people fail to realize that they need to have. Like, and I think a lot of the time, women we try to act so naive when actually we're not, because you know there's only so much that you can pretend that, oh yeah, you're not, like maybe you're not, you think that you're not attractive. You might say that you think you're not attractive, but you still want to be attractive. Every
Yeah,
woman wants to be attractive, every woman wants to be beautiful, every woman wants an attention from a male. That's
yeah,
just how it is, you know, it's our nature. So let's not pretend that when we get dressed up and we look good,
yeah,
we don't want the opposite gender to compliment us, because this is something natural in us, you know, it's
yeah,
something normal. So when, especially as a married woman, if you make effort to look good and your husband doesn't compliment you, you're not going to be happy about it. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? You're just going to
true.
think, as much as you do it for yourself as well, you
Yeah,
want your husband to say, well, you look beautiful, you know, you want that
yeah.
compliment, because you want to
We
know
have to
that
let,
you know, you're the pleasure of his eyes, you know. So
yeah,
this is important. And subhanallah, women as well, I think, for me personally, like when I think about the niqab in this kind of, you know, sense that you've been talking about, even taking men out of the equation, okay, I
yeah,
think women themselves, like, we compare ourselves to each other so much, it's actually mentally damaging, because
yeah,
we always look at another woman, and you know, we would compare to ourselves and thinking, oh well, you know, if I had this, and I, you know, if my shape was like, and subhanallah,
yeah,
like, I just think it's not necessary, because as you said, women are beautiful. And I've been a hijama therapist for like 9 years, and subhanallah, this is one thing, like I'm an artist as well, yeah, so like,
yeah,
like I see a lot of women, okay,
yeah,
like in my job, and wallahi, doesn't matter for me any size, any shape, wallahi, I when I see women, and I'm doing hijama for the sake of doing the hijama and the treatment
yeah,
and stuff, but as an artist, when I see the women, how different they are and the variety of everything that, you know, I
yeah,
just think subhanallah, Allah created women so beautiful,
yeah,
so
definitely.
beautiful, no matter what shape and size. And you know, and it makes me sad when, you know, some women, they feel embarrassed of their bodies because they feel like, oh, you know, they're not fitting into this, you know, the social
Yeah,
stereotypical kind of, like, you know, kind of concept of beauty. And it's
yeah,
just like, don't reflect on that, just think about yourself, you know, be healthy,
yeah,
be fit, take care of yourself. But don't you know, people try to put other beauty standards on themselves, and this is part of what makes women miserable a lot of the time, and what makes them
yeah,
want to compete with each other. So that's another thing, I think, like, if we wore more clothes than we
yeah,
do a lot of the time, we wouldn't be so bogged down and, you know, thinking this kind of
definitely.
way.
Because it's hard because of the society we live in. If you live in like a Western society where not you know, the majority of people are not covered up,
Mm.
and you have obviously just advertisements, and there's just so much on show, you have to almost, yeah, feel like you're competing with that.
Yes.
But then imagine, this is how I always think of it, I imagine a Bedouin, someone who lives in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
They're raised in their little village with all of their covered women around them. They get married, and when the woman undresses, it's gonna be like, I can just imagine, you know, a young male just thinking, this is amazing,
Yeah, exactly.
she is amazing. but we live in a society where they've already seen all the amazing women.
Exactly.
They've already seen different shapes and body sizes,
And it's not that
then,
they've been told. They've been told
yeah, what is
amazing
beautiful.
and what isn't.
Yeah.
So they can't. It's like they can't even make up their minds for themselves, because if you look at, for example, look at some of the footballers recently, like in the past years, they've got the so-called it's wags or whatever they call them,
Yeah.
right? These
Yeah.
women that have they fit the beauty standards, but when these men go and they go behind these women's backs and they're cheating on them, who do they cheat with? People that, wallahi, in your mind you wouldn't even understand why would he go for that one, because
It's normally someone who has very good qualities, caring, listening, understanding, pays them attention, and it's not to do with their looks as much.
It's not about looks, is it?
Yeah.
It's not about looks, subhanallah. So these are like, subhanallah, these are things that I think about, and it makes me laugh. And as women, we need to work more on our body, on our personalities rather than our bodies. Bodies in the physical, yes, work out, look after yourself, keep yourself fit, but look at your personality first. Try to build your character. You know,
Yeah,
this is what's
definitely.
important, and I feel that that's what the niqab helps me to do.
Yeah.
SubhanAllah.
Yeah,
I think sometimes you do have to work a little bit harder in the sense, because like you said about, you know, when people think, you know, sometimes think negatively, like have kind of negative connotations about Niqabi sisters, that we think we're better.
Yeah.
I don't want to be seen like that. I know that it is the other person's kind of perception, that I shouldn't feel like, you know, some way, but I'd rather do my best to kind of break these kind of barriers, you know, to make people, to open up people's minds a little bit, so that, you know, you just relate to people on a human level, subhanAllah, because especially like I think as reverts, we have non-Muslim family as well, so they know us and they know we're still like who we are. Do you know what I mean? We're not like, we didn't become aliens or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's great to have that as a revert you can have a very big impact, but it might be on a small amount of people. But when you count all of these reverts and the impact they're having on a society as general, because they're changing the views from home, they're changing people's views from, like, you know, someone might not look at a Muslim badly because they know that their niece is a Muslim, you know, their uncle's a Muslim, you know, different things where they realize there's still someone, you know, it helps combat that negativity a lot.
And it really does help. It really does help. I think it's good. Like, you know, it's our way of giving dawah, I suppose. You know, that's why it's important, like, to keep ourselves in check all the time, and just it's just having the balance as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, subhanallah. So, sister, could you just tell us a little bit about your path to pregnancy business?
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I've been, I think it's been nearly coming up to 8 years now that I've been doing path to pregnancy. So it started off very small. It started off for a completely different reason as to why I'm doing it now, to be fair. There was a sister that I knew that was in need. I didn't have any kind of money to offer her. And I realized that, well, you know, I know a little bit about fertility. I know, you know, I'd looked into it for my own reasons of trying to aid conception quickly. And I thought, oh, let me just help people to learn this method that I've learned. And it started from there. But what happened is then I got an email from a sister saying that she been struggling to conceive and she doesn't have a menstrual cycle. And I had no idea how to help her at all. And that made me want to know. And from there, I just started to find it really interesting to learn about fertility, all the different issues, how to combat them naturally, as I'm very much more into like the holistic approach than I am in the sort of medical route. And it grew from there. And then obviously I got like professionally trained as well, so that way that I am certified to do what I do. And it's just grown and grown, and it's such it's something that I always wanted, but I didn't realize, and Allah just put it in my path to do. I wanted a job where I could help the community. I've always wanted to work for myself. And then of course, you know, from the point I wore Niqab, I also was pregnant, and so I left my sort of traditional 9-to-5 job, and being then a Niqabi, found it difficult to like enter back into the workspace, as well as, you know, with a baby and stuff. So it only made sense for me to work from home. So being able to help people in the community, to be able to wear Niqab freely, you know, whether I'm doing a live or doing classes or whatever, is really helpful as well. there is so much reward in it, like on a personal level, when a sister says, you know, oh, you know, even some sisters, this will be surprising, but they'll be like, oh, my period arrived. And it's like such an exciting thing because they didn't have a period or a regular period. And like, that's the first step, you know, that we need to take. And then there's those who send you the pregnancy test, you know, result. And I'm like, oh, alhamdulillah, you know, I just feel the happiness for them. And then so many sisters message me, like always saying such lovely du'as, you know, just, you know, making dua for me, my family, blessing my business and everything. And I feel like, wow, there is so much good that is coming from this, alhamdulillah, that it's more than just a job.
Yeah,
You know.
definitely. Yeah, subhanallah, I can definitely relate because I feel like I feel that way about the hijama as well. To be honest, I've been interested in like you know, pregnancy and fertility and these kind of things for quite a while. But so, what kind of course did you do to you know, gain knowledge in this field?
So I did a holistic fertility course, and that really helps with like the certifying it and going over certain areas of fertility and helping couples in a holistic way. But I would say there's not enough out there in terms of training for this area, and you do have to get like lots of individual certificates in different areas, because when you do like holistically, then obviously you need to know all different areas, so nutrition, diet, yeah, hijama, mizan therapy, all these different things can help you
Yes.
to package things properly. And then, you know, once you know, so that's basically what I do, but I just like, I keep myself in the field of those who are specialists, and I learn from them, and I constantly learning, like, you know, instead of a hobby being, I don't know, watching a TV program or something, I feel like I'm often like looking up and watching something on fertility.
Yes, of course.
So it is something that is like a joy to do, and I find that much easier than, you know, to be able to do it because it's something that I really love.
Mashallah. So, what kind of services do you offer? Because you did mention you do like online classes, I think. So,
Yeah,
how would somebody kind of get involved or get, you know, in touch with you?
so I'm mainly active on Instagram,
Nice.
as a lot of people are, but I'm also on Facebook. I have my own website, a path to pregnancy, .co.uk, and as well, obviously, email as well is the same, path to pregnancy at hotmail.com. But in terms of services, I've got about 4 or 5 services. So it's consultation, where I can speak to like women one-on-one. I only do speak to women. If a man has an issue, then they have to contact me via like a female. And I go through their health and everything. Then I give them like what I basically recommend. I write this all up for them, all of my recommendations, and then I make them a fertility plan, which is like literally a daily plan telling them what they should do each day of their menstrual cycle for about 3 months.
Nice.
And then, yeah, I have other services where I help the people more specifically, maybe with PCOS, or if you, for example, reoccurring miscarriages is so common, like, you know, couples having miscarriages, and, you know, it's really devastating to go through a miscarriage, but when we keep having them, you know, they can find that really sometimes so difficult that they don't even want to try because they're scared to go through that situation again. So that's like an area that I'm sort of quite passionate about at the moment, with helping those couples. And alhamdulillah, you know, when I see the couples that I've helped, and I've seen the sisters with multitudes of different issues, and I've been able to help them, you know, alhamdulillah. But I'm always very clear on a couple of areas. One being that I'm not a medical doctor, so I do everything holistically. And the second being that Allah mentions it in the Quran that He gives to whom He wills children, whether that's girls, boys, both, or He leaves some people barren. I can only help with people like improving their health and fertility, and trying to aid them as much as I can in trying to, you know, for the conception to happen. But it is down to Allah. And as much as, you know, we do things from like a scientific point of view, you know, ibadah, worship, making dua, making tawbah is so important. And I would say actually the most important part of any type of holistic fertility plan or in any health plan.
Definitely, subhanallah. SubhanAllah. So inshallah we'll include your website, you know, and your contact details in the description box, so that, you know, any sisters who are in need of this treatment, then inshallah they can get in contact with you.
Okay,
It's
jazakallah
really,
khair.
mashallah, amazing work that you're doing. So just to bring the interview to a close, inshallah, I'll ask you a few more questions related to the niqab. What would you advise sisters who would like to wear the niqab but they don't really feel confident to wear it?
I would say that give it a go. Like, as I said, that I didn't wear it full time when I first wore it. So you might find yourself in certain situations where you feel comfortable to wear it, and in some other situations where you don't. But maybe by wearing it in those comfortable situations, you'll realize how easy it is, and Allah will aid you for taking that one step. That therefore, then you can feel comfortable wearing it at other times. So there's all different people. I find sometimes have a barrier to wearing it, whether it be work, whether it be their relatives who might suddenly think differently of them because they're wearing it, even if they're Muslim. But I would say that remember who you're doing it for, that we always came into the world alone and we're going to go out of it alone. And, that's what matters. When you always refer back to what matters and who you're doing it for, why you're doing it, then I think that's the most important thing. And just work your way up. And just to always remember that all of these excuses that we make for ourselves in anything that we're trying to improve on, the shaitan's there giving us reasons as to why we shouldn't. And we have to be like fighting that and just being like, so, I can't wear it because of work. Well, maybe you can wear it at work. Try it and see.
Exactly. SubhanAllah.
SubhanAllah.
So have you met any sisters who want to wear the niqab but they're not allowed to wear it?
I don't think I've met anyone who wants to wear it and isn't allowed to. No.
What about being forced into it?
No, not at all. And I think one of the reasons is like most of the women I know are converts. They are reverts. Okay. who are wearing the niqab. I'm not saying that obviously there isn't people out there who are born Muslim, but I find even all of the sisters that I know who are born Muslim, at some point in their life, they made that decision that, Islam is what they want. They maybe wasn't practicing at their early years. And then they became more practicing, and then they started to wear the niqab as well. I think there is a link somewhere with progression in your Islam and your Iman as to, you're wearing it. If you're doing it in like a Western society, if you're, for example, in Saudi Arabia, you probably have to wear it anyway, and it's just like a default. Yes. It's not a conscious thing. But I would say here, I've never come across anyone who's forced to wear the niqab at all.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. So finally, sister, what does the niqab mean to you?
It means, what does it mean to me? It means so many things that it's not just one thing. It's like a protection. It is my way of saying this is my choice, rather than the opposite, because I'm wearing it because I want to. And if I want to take it off, then I would also take it off. I don't know. I just feel like it protects you from so many things that are worth protecting from. So fitna, just making sure that I'm acting the way I want to act, and trying to be like the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's wives, even just those who were more righteous. If you go further back, that they would have also covered their faces. And I feel like the more that you can do, you should do. Everyone has areas where they find difficult and areas where they find easy. I don't find it difficult to wear it, so there shouldn't really be an excuse for me. And I see that for anyone. If you find something easy to do, just go and do it. Like, get that reward, and I don't have a problem with wearing it. I have no difficulty wearing it. I like all the benefits I get from wearing it. So for me, it is too many things in one. But at the same time, even though it does have all of this to it, I still treat it very much just like a garment of like clothing. It's just, when I go out, I shove on a coat and shoes. When as a Muslim, I go out and I shove on a hijab, niqab, abaya, coat and shoes. I don't give it too much thought than it needs. I don't think I need to beautify my niqab. I don't think I need to beautify my abaya to make myself fit in or look attractive. because that's what I try to do underneath at home. You know, I try to keep it what it is. Does that make sense? You know,
Exactly.
at the end of the day, it's just a piece of cloth, but there can be so much to it if you have the right intention.
Yes, subhanallah. Yeah, it's quite profound, I think, subhanallah. Like looking at it like that, it definitely makes a lot of sense, and I agree with what you're saying. Yeah, subhanallah. I think as well, like speaking to so many sisters, like doing this podcast, alhamdulillah, what you've said there kind of sums up a lot of, you know, what other sisters have been saying, because yeah, there's just it's not a one-dimensional thing. This is a, you know, it's multi-layered, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely, subhanallah.
definitely.
Yeah, subhanallah.
But
I
it's
agree. Like, definitely, we should all strive to do things that we find easy as much as possible, and then obviously still strive to do the things that we find difficult too, because
yeah,
yeah,
definitely. But it's great what you're doing, alhamdulillah, you know, because I feel like it gives obviously all the Niqabis a voice. It gives dawah. It does definitely let people see, you know, that there's these personalities and stuff behind this veil, and that it is just like what I was saying, it's just a piece of cloth. Yes, there can be a lot of meaning to it, but most of the time that is all good, you know. It is all as it might seem difficult for some people, but the difficulty still lies within themselves. It is an act of modesty. It is something that suggests someone is more righteous. It doesn't mean they are, but I mean, it does suggest that. And that's because of the modesty and stuff that comes with it. And I think people often have that difficulty within themselves to come to terms with that someone is better than them, or that someone could be better than them, or that they need to be better. And so therefore, you know, you throw a lot of negativity towards things when you feel uncomfortable yourself.
Of course, yeah, subhanallah. SubhanAllah, so true. I think, yeah, that's why we definitely all need to work on ourselves instead of looking outward so much and comparing all the
Definitely.
time. Yeah. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair, sister. Thank you so much. You've given me a lot of your time today, and I've really thoroughly enjoyed listening to you and hearing your stories, you know, sharing your stories about becoming a Muslim and wearing the niqab and everything. Alhamdulillah, I've really benefited. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah, thank you for having me. Alhamdulillah, it's been a pleasure.
Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.